We'll look at a different spin-off of this game's mainline series fairly shortly when we get to the Game Boy Color release Daikaijuu Monogatari Miracle of the Zone 2, after which the context here might start to make a bit more sense. The timeline has kinda got mixed up a bit here on the channel, which I guess was inevitable when I'm looking at 1999 in the Game Boy Color series, but I'm only halfway through 1992 on the original Game Boy one, so the first Miracle of the Zone game on Game Boy won't get reviewed for years yet, seeing as how it came out very late in the DMG lifespan. Anyway, the main character from the title we're looking at today is Poyon, who is the water shell hero from the Kaiju Monogatari series. If you'd have played the others already, you'd know that, but hey. So to cut a long and slightly confusing story short, this and Miracle of the Zone are both different spin-offs of the same Daikaijuu Monogatari series. These Kaiju Monogatari games, like the ones released on Famicom and Super Famicom, were your straight-up RPGs, whereas the Miracle of the Zone miniseries on Game Boy are more RPG/card battler games, not unlike Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something. However, Poyon no Dungeon Room is different again. This is a dungeon exploration game, not unlike your Mystery Dungeon, Fushigi no Dungeon kind of titles, whereby Poyon takes his trusty pickaxe and has to mine out these dungeons. The story goes that Poyon has lost his water shell hero title to some upstart called Puririn, and so in order to regain his status, he must explore 7 different cave systems and get a stamp from the dragon that is the master of each one. You might hear these games described as roguelike or roguelite, whatever it is, but that would hint at these dungeons being random or procedurally generated, which they're not, but rather everything's position is predetermined, so I'm not wholly convinced the term fits here. You'll quite often see monsters wandering around, or uncover them during your excavations, and while you do often need to battle them, you don't level up through earning experience as in a standard RPG. Instead, you'll find, from digging or enemy drops, these stones. They do several different things, and when you find them, you might as well consume them. They might increase your attack power, your HP, defense, or any of your other stats, or they might also act as healing or other replenishments. This is the only part of the game where the language might act as a barrier, as you need to be able to identify which stones do what. However, pretty much everything else in the game has a useful icon that's fairly self-explanatory. For instance, there are 2 attack buttons. The smaller sword is a standard strength attack, and the other one is stronger but seems to miss more frequently. Swinging your pickaxe at a covered tile in front of you will either clear the dirt away or hit solid rock. If you hit an unpassable tile, your pickaxe endurance will drop a little bit. You can use the correct stone to fix this or retreat to the surface to heal up. Otherwise, just getting rid of dirt doesn't damage the axe, so it's often worth clearing as much as you can to uncover more power-ups. The aim of each floor is to reach a stairwell, after which you'll descend to the next level where the enemies are tougher. Ultimately, you're trying to reach the end of each dungeon to vanquish its dragon and get their mark. To see the game's ending, you only need 1 of each mark, but you're actually able to get up to 5 of them. Of course, various traps also await you in the caves, and in order to overcome them, you need to level up your Horotech skill, which allows some walls to be smashed, or gives you the ability to recruit some beasts that have the skills to disable the traps. It is possible to get overpowered in this game fairly easily by simply farming the types of stones you want, so I suppose it's up to you how much time you're prepared to trade off for an easier go of it. The difficulty curve is well balanced, but still fairly steep, it's fair to say, so don't expect to be able to crack through a dungeon on your first go. You will have to do some training somewhere along the way. As mentioned though, the items and enemies all spawn in the same location each time you visit a dungeon, so if you can just memorize them and the items' positions, you're able to dive down there fairly safely and efficiently, avoiding the majority of battles. So yeah, Poyon no Dungeon Room is your fairly standard dungeon exploration game. If you enjoy something like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but want something slightly different to the Chunsoft Fushigi titles, I dare say this might be what you're looking for. It does enough new stuff to stand out from its more famous contemporary, and there's even a sequel on Game Boy Color later on as well. I thoroughly enjoyed Poyon no Dungeon Room. It's certainly more accessible than Miracle of the Zone, that's for sure, and I can wholeheartedly recommend this one.